Good afternoon, good evening, and also good morning to some of you. First of all, I have to apologize for people joining from Sydney and Melbourne because there was a small timing error on the flyer. However, thanks for joining. And let's start our meeting today, which is a really important topic. It's about reviving tourism in Sri Lanka. We know that we are highly dependent on tourist income in Sri Lanka. And we have an excellent speaker today who will do a professional talk in relation to this topic about reviving tourism for betterment of Sri Lanka. So he will look at the economic aspects, the social aspects, and the cultural benefits we will gain from this. But in the meantime, I have got a little bit of background we normally set so that everybody understands what we are trying to achieve. So Dr. Damian Fernando's strength, I need to discuss here first of all. He's got a Bachelor of Business degree and a Doctor of Philosophy in Tourism from Melbourne, Victoria University. And he's also a Master of Business Administration, so which gives you the competence all around this subject. Currently, he is the academic coordinating head of the Melbourne campus of Southern Cross University. But if you look at his past experience, he is a subject convener and a lecturer at Victoria University, Australia. He was head of education at the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. And he was senior lecturer and a product director at the Green University Sri Lanka, NSBM. Then he was the chief operating officer of NKR Travels and the direct general manager of Bliss Travels as well in Melbourne. And he was a project controller at Sri Lankan Airlines. So he's got a breadth of knowledge and experience to tackle this topic quite effectively. Just getting into the background, if you look at tourism around the world, people travel for different reasons. It could be starting from domestic tourism to beach tourism, cruise tourism, whatever. But when you come to Sri Lanka, it's very difficult that our authorities are promoting any type of tourism. They promote tourism, but not quite any type. So, for example, problems with for example, business tourism. Now, there are lots of people who are operating from Sri Lanka on business, on tourist visas, with absolute no income for Sri Lanka at all. So that's a major issue. Then a social setup as well. That's been coming up. So this is something that we need to think about. And if you look at Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, they've got a wonderful website which gives some information. But the question for any visitor like me or you, if you want to travel, there are several questions that you might ask if you don't know the destination. What's the kind of safety record in there? What are the security things in place if I want to access security? If I have a medical emergency, what can I do? How can I assess that? Even travel booking. So when I arrive at the airport, how can I get to the hotel? Is there a bus? Is there a train? Or do we have to always get taxis and so on? Then the cultural needs, because certain cultures may not match with our cultures. So this kind of information is required for people who are visiting, so they behave appropriately for the country. Accommodation types, the connectivity, like what kind of IT connectivity we have, how to get it, and so on. And where the main embassies are, so you know if they need to be contacted, how to contact. So this kind of information will be very useful to attract people. And at the same time, we need to look at our history and see where our black marks are on the net. These things are already on the net. Like two murders of tourists for various reasons, and even ongoing assaults on foreign women. So these are on the net, and people look at these things. So people have to show, the current governance has to show that actions being taken, these things not to happen again. So that's important to promote tourism. Now look at our tourism potential. This is a little video, 2 minutes. Just listen so that you will see what we are missing.
Mr. Kant, you have a old relationship with tourism. You are seen as architect of branding India, incredible India, branding Kerala, God's own country. You've been passionate about the ecology and geographies and how do you attract people to come and visit and explore them. You're sitting in a country which is by design a tourist haven in some sense. I believe this year we've had a very strong tourist season, and they have, I think, a couple of seasons in the year, so it's a 7 or 8 month tourist destination country. What can we learn from Sri Lanka, and perhaps what can Sri Lanka pick from our own experience, journeys through the years on tourism? Your view on tourism, how important, how should we make it sustainable, and how should we make it attractive for the higher paying customers? That's something you've been speaking about.
So first, let me say that there is no product like Sri Lanka. There are very few destinations in the world which have beaches, which have wildlife, which have culture, which have architecture, which have history, which have backwaters, all combined together.
And food.
And cuisine and culture, all this. No other destination in the world has a product like Sri Lanka. My view about Sri Lanka is that it needs to go up the value chain. And therefore, it's a destination which, to my mind, should never be sold for less than about $600 to $700 a night. And that's a question of how you position. Because we are selling, if you sell a destination for peanuts, you'll get monkeys. And you are selling it too cheap. But to my mind, Sri Lanka is better than Kerala. Sri Lanka's Human Development Index, its physical quality of life index, and its natural beauty is 10x better than Kerala.
Mr. Kant, you have...
So you can see the potential we have as a country, and how to promote that is what matters. And also there's a tourism threat. I'm sure Dr. Damian will talk about these things, like environmental degradation, wildlife disruption, deforestation, social challenges, cultural erosion, all these kind of threats. And there are cities that are so popular in the world, but residents are now protesting to reduce tourism, like Venice in Italy, Maya Bay in Thailand, and in Peru and Barcelona and so on. So you have to look at both sides and promote what we need. So this is the answer we will hopefully get from Dr. Damian Fernando. He's, I consider, expert in travel and tourism. So let's give him the stage and say thank you for coming, Damian.
And again, thank you very much for Leeds members, Dr. Chula, the organizers, and those who are joined this from Australia. The time here is now 10:38, and those who are joined from Sri Lanka and UK and the other part of the world. All right. Now, basically, thank you very much for selecting this topic. So it's talk about how to promote tourism in Sri Lanka, economic, social, and cultural benefits. So what happens is most of the parts of the world, and even especially some people in Sri Lanka, when it comes to tourism, they looked at only the economic part. But here, I'm very happy that the topic you have selected and given to me, adding some more parts, which I'm going to talk about more today with you. All right. Let me start with this one. Now, before we talk about tourism or tourism planning or strategies, what we have to understand first is where are we at the moment? What is our situation, right? If you think about Sri Lanka is a relatively small country. We got only 65,500 square kilometers. And also we shouldn't forget our country is preliminary agricultural based country. So you know that agriculture means we need a lot of lands. And also, as you know, that significant of beach land is used by fisheries industry. So that's again an important part of Sri Lankan economy. And also, we shouldn't forget that our population density in Sri Lanka is, we have 319 people per square kilometer. Meaning, just to share my research knowledge here, if you take the top 10 top 10 countries in the world, starting from France to Spain to China to Japan, all those countries, population density is less than Sri Lanka. Meaning, small country, high population density, we need land for agriculture, we need land for fisheries. So we have a limitation, we have a limited space to accommodate. So thank you very much, Dr. Chula, sharing that beautiful video. I actually, in fact, share that in my Facebook as well about this gentleman, so-called architecture in India, tourism, the brand, Incredible India. That's a fantastic video. I really enjoyed that. So also what we shouldn't forget here is there are local people who wants to enjoy their own country. So there are local people who want to tour. There are so many things. So we have some limitations when it comes to tourism. So this is the context behind. But on the other hand, we got a beautiful product. We got a compact and diversified product. I don't have to, most of you all are Sri Lankans, so I don't have to explain. We got the biggest land animal and the biggest sea animal in the world, highest leopard concentration in the world. Right? We got 8 World Heritage sites. We got people with beautiful smile. We got beautiful beaches. Right? So all that is in a compact property or compact country, but a lot of diversity and also, many things to offer for tourists. Okay, so now if you are in a situation where your supply is limited, your size is smaller, and you have a lot of things to offer, there is a way we have to handle the situation. If our supply is limited, we have to get the maximum benefit out of this business or tourism. So in that context, the common thing everyone talking about is the promote high value tourism, meaning attract tourists who can spend more. So basically to give luxury experience. And I agree, and I'm there to an extent with that statement. And also when we have a limited capacity, so it's like running a restaurant or facility, whereas we have to get the maximum benefit. So you don't allow the tourists to come only during the season, that is December to March or April, and only July, August. You want to have a year-round tourism product, whereas you get the maximum out of that. And also, it is important when it comes to tourism to have infrastructure. There's no question about it. I'm not going to go through all the points in this slide because these things I'm going to discuss again in few seconds. Sorry for that. Right. Keep in mind, if we see that tourism as a very attractive thing, we can earn dollars. So that's why all the governments are promoting tourism. We want tourists, because from the first day, we get income to the country with a small input. That's not a correct wording, but government's contribution should be bigger. They have a bigger role to play, but even government don't involved in it, still tourism generates because it's basically a private sector driven organization. But that doesn't mean government can keep blind eye on that. They have a big role to play. But normally in the history, governments are comparatively didn't play a big role they should have played. So look at here, the cost of tourism. Land, we have to sacrifice land for fisheries and agriculture when we involve in tourism. When we do tourism, there is an environmental damage for natural habitat. We shouldn't forget the pollution. We shouldn't forget the littering and our water, our forest, all that is affected. And overcrowding, again, gives a problem for local community as well as tourists. As you know, if you go in a normal day in Kandy, you can't go, you can't move easily. If you visit Sigiriya, there are times where you can't climb, you just stranded in one place because of the over-tourism. And also, don't forget, the other thing which can happen for a small country like us is increased cost of living. Because when tourists are coming in, I mean, good examples today. If you go to down south, you will hardly buy king coconut. All the king coconut sellers are ready to sell king coconuts to foreigners or the tourists. So local people hardly get a chance, or they have to pay a big amount of money for that. And also with regard to housing, I know a lot of friends in Colombo and down south. They have their houses, but they are not ready to rent for locals. All of them have converted their properties for Airbnb and Booking.com. Because of that, definitely over-tourism or too much of tourists coming into a country increase cost of living in that country. And also, as you know, wildlife disturbance, this we have experienced a lot. I'm going to talk about it later down the line. Water and energy consumption, as you know, tourism consumes a lot of water and also energy, electricity, right? And also, I would like to mention here, tourism creates seasonal employment, but there are times where they don't have jobs. But if I go to places like Polonnaruwa or Sigiriya, the most common thing I hear from the farmers is, "Mahatya, මේක අවුරුද්ද නෑ අපිට වැඩට ගන්න ඔක්කොම tourism වලට ගිහලා මේ දවස්වල tourism season." So it has affected local agriculture. So that's again the cost for the local economy, right? And there are waste management issue, right? And also we shouldn't forget that there are situations where there can be tensions, conflict between the locals, their opportunities, and the foreigners, right? And also, whatever said then, there is a kind of cultural trade-off between tourism and our values, our lifestyle systems, and all that thing with commercialization. So don't misunderstand me. I have to explain you the negative side of the tourism for us to think about how we are going to go forward and how we are going to plan for the future. Now, back to the topic, main topic. Limited capacity, we have limited land, we can accommodate only limited tourists. So where are we going to go for? Backpackers or Chumpang tourists or Kibulabanis tourists who walk around the streets and buy stuff from here? Or we want top-end tourists who spend $700 a night, as the gentleman mentioned. If you sell peanuts, you get monkeys. So that's a very good one. But by saying that, though I'm a big fan of that idea, there is something more I want to explain to you here. And there is something more everyone should understand here. Don't forget, the current existing tourism flow or the current existing tourism structure, I will show you in a minute. That structure is already, in a way, hard to change from this kind of tourist to here. That's number one problem we have. Already, all this time, all the leaders who rule the country, what they did, come, any tourist, we welcome here. So we have got a huge sector of this kind of tourism. That's one thing, why we can't get $700 from each tourist, number one. Number two, don't forget, today's backpacker, a young teenager backpacker, will be a CEO in a company in 10 years' time. So we can't always say we want rich tourists, we want top-end tourists, we want $700 tourists. No, there should be some space for those kind of backpackers also. Number three, what we shouldn't what we should keep in mind is some tourists are coming and staying in local places, going and having a kottoroti along the streets. You know, they sometimes want to experience local way of life. So they are not really cheap tourists, but they want to experience local cuisine. They want to experience mingle with people. So there are that kind of tourists as well, right? So due to these things, what I'm trying to say here, we should always say, I mean, I believe that we need high-end tourists because of these limitations and space, but same time, due to existing structure and the few things I just mentioned, we can't change this easily. And also, the tourists who wants to stay in the small houses, guest houses, through that, don't forget, the tourism income distribute for local people as well. So what I'm trying to say is, if all the tourists who are coming to Sri Lanka are staying in 5-star hotels and above, then the local homes, village homes who have guest houses, these people don't get tourist income. So they also need some fair share of this industry as well, right? So these are the things I want to share here. This slide is very important, and even the next couple of slides is very important in this scenario. Before I move on, can everyone confirm that you can hear me, please, or one or two, please?
Yeah, we are hearing fine.
Thank you. Right. Now, this is the mix in the tourism arrivals or tourist mix today. So this data is based on 2018 tourist arrivals. If you look at here, you can see out of the tourists who are coming into Sri Lanka, 60% of the tourists are staying in guest houses and informal sector places. 27% of the tourists are staying 1-star to 4-star accommodation places, and only 12.5% tourists are staying in 5-star and above. So if you look at this, you can see 60% of the tourists who are coming into Sri Lanka staying below 1-star hotel, meaning guest houses and a lot of informal sector places. So there is a problem in this. So this is not a correct mix. So this definitely hinders our foreign currency earning potential. This affects destination image, as you know. If you are flooded with backpackers and people stay in informal sector places, right? So Sri Lanka may brand it down the line as cheap destination. So the rich people, the people who have money, they will go to so-called posh destinations. Today, one of the posh destinations, it's slightly changing, but like country like Maldives, right? And when you, without looking at numbers, if you just go behind numbers, right, it'll worsen the capacity issue, as I just mentioned. You flooded with tourists, and I have a lot of experiences. A lot of guides have told me, tour guides have told me, their tourists say, if they are, top end, rich tourists, no, I don't want to go there because there's a lot of crowd. I don't want to be in queues. Just skip the place. So they end up with a bad experience. Right? And also, as I told you, if you chase behind numbers without looking at real revenue, we face the inflation effect as well. So what I want to tell you, this mix is not favorable. This mix need to be changed, but it is not an easy task. I'm not telling that we need to get rid of this guest houses and informal sector, but 60% is too much. 60% is too much, and 1-star to 5-star, 40% is too low. At least we should have to have 50-50 or 45-55, 45 informal sector, meaning we have to make them formal, but guest houses and small restaurants, etc., small guest houses and homestays, 45% for next 5 years, fine, but we have to have about 55% 1 star to 5 star. That's what I believe. So basically, we have to reduce this slowly but steadily, this 60% at least by 15% in coming 5 years. So that's what I believe. So if I put the tourist arrivals into a table, so we got the highest tourists in 2018, which is 2.3 million tourists. In that time, so I took the statistics from there, 1.3 million tourists stayed in informal sector places and small guest houses. Only 276,000 tourists stayed 5-star hotels and above. Again, which is not a good thing. And also, I want to tell you that Tourist Board this time has put a 3 million tourist arrival target. Number one, which you can't achieve. Definitely, take my word, the end of this year, they will not achieve 3 million tourists. Number two, which is not a good thing. Last year, we got close to 20 million, or just passing 2 million. So this year, we have 3 million, meaning we are expecting a 50% increase, which is not practical, which is not sustainable as well. Because you can't create hotels like making Kothurati or making hoppers, right? So to increase the tourists by 50%, you have to have a plan, right? Normally, there is we call organic growth in tourism industry, which is if the country situation is good, no war, no problem. If everything is peaceful, we get maximum 10% growth. Plus aggressive marketing campaign, other campaigns, you get 5%. If you are really lucky, you get another 5%, you get 20%. That's the normal context tourism growth. If we get that, this year, my personal prediction is we get 2.3 to 2.4 and a half, close to 2.5, but we'll not be able to pass 2.5 this year, but we'll just put 20%. So likewise, if we think that every year we get 20% growth, normally that doesn't happen. Actually, when you get more and more tourists, it doesn't increase in the same amount, same 20%, it may go down slowly. But if you plan in that way, by 2030, we may get 6.2 million tourists. In that context, if we continue to have this informal sector and small guest house 60%, we will get 3.7 million tourists are staying in these small guest houses and informal sector places, which is not good. So my suggestion is, what we need to try to do, as I mentioned, the 60% we should try to reduce to 45%, and we should try to increase this 27%, 1-star to 4-star to 35%, and 5-star and above, sorry for that typo, from 12 to 20%. At least we are trying to grab that informal sector, from that sector 15% to get more income. If we can do that, if we can get just 15% from that informal sector, instead of 2.7 million, we can get 3.7 million tourists into, we can reduce 3.7 million to 2.7 million tourists from the informal sector. We can increase 1.6 to 2.1, 1-star to 4-star. We can increase 744,000 to 1.2 million tourists in 5-star and above, which is, you have to work towards it. It's a hard task. Authorities have to work towards to do this small change, which is not easy, I'll tell you. Right. Now, the other problem. Now, I just told that we have to change that tourism mix. We have to get more tourists to stay in star class hotels because we want more income. Don't forget, the main objective of tourism is earn dollars, because we have a lot of costs I just showed to you. So with having all these costs, why we are into this business, mainly there are employment and other things, but mainly to earn dollars. So as I mentioned, to achieve that, you have to change that arrival mix. Number two, at the moment, on average, the tourists who are coming to Sri Lanka spends per night average $180. we can easily increase that with innovative products, right? With having giving options for tourists to spend a little bit more with some tourism attraction, if we can, or attracting high spending tourists, if we just increase this from $180 to $250, basically you have increased without tourism numbers, without increasing tourism numbers, you have increased good, I was 170, 70%, 30%, 25% income you have increased without changing the heads. And also, if you can keep the tourists here instead of 8 days, if you can keep them for 10 days in Sri Lanka, the average stay in Sri Lanka is about 10 days, but 8 days, sorry. If you can keep, instead of 8 days, if you can keep a tourist in Sri Lanka for 10 days without any effort, without increasing the number, again, you have increased your tourism income by 20%. So that's where our planning should come. That's where we should work hard. Get them to spend more, get us, let them to stay here more days. So without increasing numbers, you are increasing your income. Right. Other problem here, very common topic. Russian, Ukraine, Israel, Chinese issue. This problem began some time ago with this Chinese tourists. There was a Chinese tourist influx to Sri Lanka in 2000, starting from 2015 to 2018. Huge influx of tourists. And what happened was in that, this Chinese business is kind of like that. They have done this to many countries in the world, including Thailand. But don't forget, there are 150 million tourists, Chinese tourists go all over the world. There are good tourists, high spending tourists. We should aim on them. There is no problem with Chinese tourism. What I'm trying to say is the Chinese tourism operate in Sri Lanka is the way we operated. Now the Chinese tourist arrivals are lower, but that time is pathetic. And when it started, I don't want that to happen again. One of the Chinese operators, most of the Chinese operators have a Sri Lankan silent partner. Say someone they find in Sri Lanka, establish a company, collect money back in China, keep the profit there, come to Sri Lanka, negotiate with hotel for peanuts, right? And get the hotel. And they have a few hotels owned by them and joint ventures in Sri Lanka. So they get their clients to their hotels. They have their own restaurants established in Sri Lanka. They take their clients to their restaurants. Chinese do shopping. These Chinese people have started their own shops in Sri Lanka. They take their clients to their shops. And also there are a lot of Chinese people without license, no tour guide license. They use them as tour guides and they take them as tour guides. So end of the tour, the real benefit the country gets is, very many. And also, that's an old story, this Chinese story. And the other one about a few years ago, after COVID situation, these Russians and Ukraine people start coming in. And our people also down without a business, their thirst for business. Down south, what these Russians, Ukraine and Israel start doing, renting houses, renting tuk-tuks, right? They are the people handling tourism at the moment in down south, most of the places, right? They collect money, they book transfers, they book hotels, right? And Russian girls on these scooters, they run around, right? All these business done by Sri Lankans now have been taken by these people, most of the businesses. So this is not a good thing. When this happened some time ago, that was the correct time because everything you have to step it on the bud. Our politicians, due to their short-sightedness, and they want somehow to get some money, and they want to show numbers because under my ministership, I got this much of numbers. They didn't care any of these things. Now it has grown to a level where you would have seen the situation which we faced in Arugam Bay. And even I had a fear before this Arugambe story. I had a fear there will be a fight between the locals and these Russian people and Ukraine people. It went that bad. Believe me, one example I'm telling you now. One of my friends went to down south recently to have dinner around Minister area with the family. He told me, Damien, they gave me a credit card machine. I paid through my credit card. The bank is not any Sri Lankan bank. That is a foreign bank in Poland or some Western European country. The bank slip, meaning not only foreigners dining out money or the hotel money, even local people's money are seeping out from this country because we have not paid correct attention for those kind of things. Right? And the other thing I want to tell you about draining out our money is with regard to this booking platforms. Don't misunderstand me. I'm 100% with booking.com. I'm 100% with Uber. There is no problem. Technology is evolving. We have to adopt this technology. Without booking.com, some of the small guest houses around the country may not come into the market. This is a fantastic platform. But the problem is, as a country, rulers or leaders or politicians or whoever, we also have to have some strategies. Okay, booking.com charges from our people 18%, and some hotels and most of the organizations to come on the top of the list, they pay 10% more, about 28, say to round figure 30%. So whatever the money we get, 30% or 28% parked outside the country and rest only we get, right? Even the same scenario, not as bad as booking.com with Uber. So what we need to do, not to hate them, not to block them, not to stop them, but we also need to get into that competition, whatever the way we can do. We have good IT companies in Sri Lanka. We can talk to the hotels, say, hey guys, we are going to start a local booking platform. We are not going to charge 18%. We are going to charge 10%. So when it comes to the global scenario, our prices are still 8-10% cheaper than booking.com. So we slowly getting into this competition, right? If we can't still booking.com is powerful, right? There is no question about it. We just include our entrance fees, Sigiriya, Double, so we include them also. So people can buy, they also online. So we collect money in advance, right? So we can slowly try to, have a bit of a competition. In Sri Lanka, of course, with Uber, it is giving a good competition. So these kind of things we should promote, not to hate those kind of booking.com or Uber, but we also try to find ways and means to save some money in the country because we are doing into this business to get dollars for this country. So the other thing, a sad scenario I want to share with you here is even our locals who are operating big hotels, to operators, not all, there are honorable people who are doing this business. There are a lot of people. They have done a big job, but there are some companies, I want to tell you, they park their revenue outside the country and they bring X amount of money into the country. So through all these ways, not getting correct tourists is one side, but same time, not getting the income. So there is a double effect on us with regard to this business. So changing the tourism mix is one, and also getting and saving this money for dollar money for the country is another challenge. So these both things we should do, we should work towards it. And so what are the strategies we can follow? There is a big role need to be played by the institutions, that is government, right, and the tourism authorities, SLTDA, Tourism Promotions Bureau, they have a huge role to play here. And also my argument or my suggestion always is, instead of always chasing behind numbers, we want this million tourists, we want that million tourists, just go for income target. Just tell, we want 12 billion US dollar revenue. We want a 12% contribution to GDP. Just assume. Some people talk about 5 million tourists, 10 million tourists into the country. Assume the biggest problem we may end up, not only over tourism and environmental issue, but also then you are giving a huge burden onto our GDP, because if we are relying on a vulnerable industry like tourism, if we give a huge weight on tourism, say our 25% of our GDP is on tourism, which is not a good thing. Believe me, out of the world top 10 tourism countries, except Thailand, Thailand's GDP only 26% depending on tourism. All the other countries' tourism contribution is just 8% to 12%, not more than that, because they know the vulnerability of this industry. Because of that, they just try to find money, income through other sources. They don't put much pressure on tourism because they know the situation or the nature of the industry. So we need innovative tourism products, and we want to promote unutilized tourism attractions. As you know, there are a lot of tourism attractions in Sri Lanka not being utilized. Dambadeniya, right? North and east, there are many places we don't use. We have a standard itinerary: Colombo, Sigiriya, Kandy, Nuwara down south. So this is what we are doing. So we are going around this. Because of that, there's a huge tourism influx in these areas, overcrowded situation, so which is not a good strategy. Because of that, what we need to do is we have to disperse tourist flows to the other regions. So we have to promote Sri Lanka into North and East region, right? So we can then avoid concentration on East region, right? We are a lot of islands in Kalpiti area, the Putlam, right? We don't look at Kurunagala, right? Dambadeniya, right? That side, the Arugam Bay. So we have to disperse them into different sites. So then everyone is not just going around Sigiriya, Kandy, Sigiriya, Kandy, Sigiriya, Kandy. And also, important other thing is target marketing. So we should understand, we say that we want to change this tourism mix because we are getting a lot of backpackers. Then we want high-end tourists. Then we have to do specific marketing, saying that we want top-end tourists who go stay in $700 accommodation. If we get bloggers, these social media people, right? Then you don't get, because those top-end tourists don't go through those kind of media, or they don't use that kind of platform. So you have to have specific segmented marketing to that segment, right? So the other thing is we have to develop the industry professionals, meaning the stakeholders of the industry need to be trained, right? And also the other important strategy is sustainable tourism development. Without sustainability, forget about tourism. We do tourism today because our grandfathers, grandmothers, our great-great-grandfathers protected Sigiriya. They protected water bodies. They protected the flora and fauna. That's why we are in tourism today. If we want dollars, if we think that we want dollars, we want money, if we start getting tourists, just numbers, we will destroy this. We will destroy the island, which there will be no tourism for our future generation, even for locals in future. So we have to preserve, we have to go for sustainable tourism. And to develop tourism and also to disperse tourists into different parts, we have to attract investment. So that's another important point. Before I go to the next slide, just would like to hear from you. Am I going fast? Is it, how is your feeling about, overall feeling about anything to share?
I haven't received any text, but they can put a text.
Right, good. So, Dr. Chula, hope it's not too boring for you all.
No, I think it's very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
I feel that I keep on talking. Thank you very much for your feedback. So I'll go on. So I have already taken 35 minutes from your time, but I want to finish within 1 hour and 15 minutes because 2 hours you can't listen anyway.
Can I just there's comment saying fascinating talk. And I just want to mention, so everyone listening, that Dr. Damian's agreed to take this for a publication, and your contributions will be welcome for that. And hopefully with some recommendations for the government, so we'll be able to liaise with them as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Chula. So now I just put into 4 topics or 5 topics: role of the government, how we are going to promote, how we could promote, a few things: sustainability, human resource development, a few topics we discussed. So I'm going to discuss them briefly. Due to the time factor, I may not go through each and every point, but I will try to cover as much as possible. Right? Thank you. Right. The most important thing is having a robust institutional framework. If you want to do tourism, right, we have to have, number one, good tourism policy, institutional framework. As you know, our Tourism Act is a very old act. So I think the current authorities are looking at changing that. And in this context, what I want to importantly tell, tourism affects most of the areas of the economy. And also, a lot of government departments are involved in it. Wildlife, forestry, cultural department, coast conservation, transport, all that are part of this. Because of that, the problem is, in the past, since there is no good coordination, right, there are always problems, right? For example, say I can remember I went to a meeting at Tourist Board. So with the wildlife minister that time, we were talking about opening, wildlife parks earlier, a lot of other things, industry issues. And after the meeting, I was at the lift. This wildlife minister was telling to his secretary or someone who's next to him, "Mage ali nattam mun tourism karai." So just think about the attitude of the minister about his. He thinks that Ali is his personal property, right? So they don't go for coordinated efforts, right? So they have their own areas, they have own political agendas for their own ministries, right? So you can't do tourism like that, because tourism needs collaboration of all these institutions. So having that collaboration is very important if you want to develop tourism in Sri Lanka, right? So we need to update our legislation, and importantly, we need, as a country, we need to have a tourism policy, which we are lacking at the moment. And with regard to strategies, these are some strategies. I just put it up, and I'm always believing these are good for the country. To disperse tourists, one thing we can do is, we have a huge potential in Jaffna. So we can develop basically, especially Jaffna area. As you know, we have an airport, close proximity to India. So for the people who are in Chennai to go to Mumbai or New Delhi is more time consuming, or it's rather closer for them to come to Jaffna or to Colombo. So we have a huge chance to develop Jaffna Airport, right? And there are a lot of tourism attractions in Jaffna, right? And also there are colorful festivals in Jaffna we can really promote. There are a lot of diaspora all over the world where they want to come in. For example, the Nallur festival, what a colorful festival we have. And if you think about Jaffna, the food, the cuisine, so they have their own cuisine. So we shouldn't try to promote Jaffna as Colombo. We should let Jaffna to promote as Jaffna, or Northeast as Northeast, right? So in that context, what I want to do is, my idea is we should establish a North-East or North Development Task Force, including politicians and academies, industry people, get together and try to draw their own plans to develop their area. In that process, I think we have beautiful islands around Jaffna area. They are beautiful as Maldives islands, right? So we can get investors to develop those islands, say 99-year lease or 59-year lease or whatever you call it as, so get to do high-end resorts. And also in that sense, I'm not only talking about one community diaspora, any diaspora. I know that a lot of people who have interest in that area, the rich people live in Canada, the UK, the Australia, they can come and invest. There's no problem, right? Any investor who wants to come in, they can come and invest. And believe me, there are luxury cruises operating in India. And when I was working as CEO of that company, I was having meetings in India and Sri Lanka for those cruises to come to Sri Lanka with those luxury clients. So they can come to Jaffna or the East Coast, right? And so for that, we need to develop infrastructure. Also, we need to train those people. So having a good hotel school in Jaffna is an important part of developing Jaffna area as tourism region. And the other thing, world emptiest airport, so-called, but it has been built, that investment has done. So now you can't say that's a silly thing to do. Now that has been done, how best you can use this. Because we shouldn't forget that Monaragal and Hambantota area is one of the poor areas in Sri Lanka. So this airport has a capacity to land like big aircraft like A380s, right? They have a capacity, passenger capacity of 50,000, right? So 1 million tourists and 50,000 metric tons of cargo. So it's at the moment, BIA's Bandaranaike National Airport is a bit tight. They're at the process of, expanding. So it's a good alternative. And also the other things what you can do with this MRIA is Mahinda Rajapaksa International Airport is you can use this port as a comprehensive solution because as you know, there is a cricket ground, there is an international conference center, right? And there are nearby tourist attractions like the Ala and other places, right? And around that area, right, you have the Hambantota port. So with the port, you can link the airport. So there can be some marine exchange center. So that's one of the things we can look at. And also, the other thing what we can do is a lot of countries need the fueling hubs. For the airlines need a fueling hub. So this airport itself has state-of-art refueling terminal. So we can promote that as a refueling center in the area. Right? So the other strategies we can do is 35% of the tourists arriving to Sri Lanka use the national park and cultural site in that area. And also 26% of foreign employees, right, come from the 8 districts around Matala, Mahinda Rajapaksa International Airport. So they can use that airport. And also there are 4,500 rooms around that. So we can use this as to disperse tourists from the main attraction, get some tourists around Moragal, Hambantota area. So with the other strategy, get some tourists away from Sigiri area, get them to Jaffna and East Coast. So like that, we can use this existing infrastructure wisely. And the other important decision the government should take at this stage is in the world, there is a thing called mass tourism, right? That is not at the lower end tourism I'm talking about here, getting numbers. It's called city tourism. A lot of countries are following that. Singapore is one of the countries use city tourism. Hong Kong, Macau, Dubai are following city tourism. All these countries are getting 9-10 times bigger tourist numbers, right? Singapore itself are 19-20 million a year, right? Whereas we are talking about 2 million tourists in Sri Lanka. So, but you have to remember, these city tourists are staying only 3 to 4 nights maximum, right? And they mainly come for shopping, nightlife, gambling, right? That kind of a thing. But at the moment, I mean, those days we didn't have much of a infrastructure or there's a danger, whereas those city tourism may affect our local culture, it may tarnish our local. But fortunately, there is an opportunity we have got with this port city, which we call part of Sri Lanka, but in a zoning different in a zone like you can control crowd. I mean, even in Singapore, this marina casino, if a local goes there, he or she has to pay $100, but foreigner is for free of charge. So we can use this existing infrastructure if we really want to touch into that mass tourism or city tourism. Whereas shopping centers, nightclubs, casinos, right? You can offer that in this area, whereas you can attract because don't forget we are close to the two biggest nation in the world, one side India, one side China. So if you put those two countries together, half of the world population is there. So Chinese are really crazy casino loving people, and India, you can't have casinos in the country. So we have a huge potential. And again, when we are positioning that, don't forget, we should go for high spenders, high income earners. So the people who are not just coming and, so the top, so if you are going to start, when you are starting, when you are pitching in that level, it's easier. So other area is already, as I told you, structure has been destroyed. But even if you're going to embark with this government, if decide to do that, they have to start in that pitching. And the other thing I'm always suggesting is how to integrate these local people to this tourism business. That is very important because I always believe, right, in this tourism business, involving local people and giving the benefit of this tourism is a great thing. So my suggestion is establishing local cooperatives, right? Meaning there are homestay people, there are local tuk-tuk drivers, there are local site guides, right? Get them into one place, establish a corporate, tell them, hey guys, you are the owners of this area's tourism. Please don't charge, right, too much of money from the tourists, tell the tuk-tuk guides, right? And government advice for the homestay people, we are going to financially support you. We are going to empower you to look after your area, right? So likewise, so you are empowering these people and letting them, of course, government monitor them, government give their financial support and some directions, of course, but you are empowering them to look at your local area tourism. They feel they are involved, they feel that they are responsible for their area. So this is why I say, so supporting and developing cooperatives is important, and government should educate them and support them, these local stakeholders, and support the local entrepreneurs. If a person is having a basic type of a restaurant, help them to buy a coffee machine. Believe me, in Sri Lanka, many tourist guides have shared with me, Damian, like some people, some tourists, they like beer. There's part of their, as soon as they get down, they want to have beer. Pubs. Some people, coffee is their main meal kind of a thing, right? They want coffee wherever they go. So it's very hard to find some areas in Sri Lanka to buy a cappuccino or latte or whatever. So government support them to buy a coffee machine. So and say that a person who running a homestay, all right, just tell, we give you a training, right? You are charging at the moment for your place $20 or $15. Don't do that. We'll buy air conditioning for you. Just fix an air conditioner. Instead of using this Arpico, the small mattress, buy a 10-inch good mattress, right? And talk to the client like this, give a good service. Instead of $15, you charge $35. So tourism income will go up. That local person's income will go up. Then that local homestay is $35, then or $40, then our 3-star hotel price go up to $75. Then 4-star hotel price go up to $125. Then our 5-star hotel price go up to $175. Likewise, that empowering them and helping them can have a good effect on the other properties as well, and that will give us more income as well. And the other thing we need to do is instead of all this time in the past, my experience, it's very hard, still it's new to comment about the present government. I hope that they will not do it. And there are some signs they don't do it. We have to take decision based on data-driven tourism. Because just for just to share with you, when I was doing my PhD in tourism in Australia, there were 30 people has got Australian government scholarship to study about Australian tourism. So end of every year, Australian government is getting 30 theses how to develop Australian tourism. In our context, we don't do research. Politician, whoever the minister get up in the morning, he take whatever decision he wants to take. We can't go on like that. And also, we have to, by research, we can understand what are the new markets, what are the emerging markets, what are the new products we have to offer, right? And this with regard to new product, if you think about in Sri Lanka, we have Sigiriya, Damulla, we have standard products, right? We have hardly got innovative new products or new tourism attraction. Very few. I know you already know that recently through a World Bank or Asian Development Bank help, we started Peco Trail, which is a good thing, right? Which is a very good thing. The trail from Kandy to Nuwara, fantastic. And some time ago, we started Elephant Orphanage. So those are man-made tourism attraction. If you think about many countries have aquarium. In Sri Lanka, we don't have aquarium. We had Min Madura at a zoo. No one is going there now. There's a huge chance to have aquarium, the theme park, water theme park, right? If you go to London, the London Eye, the London Dungeon, we spend extra dollars, right? Madame Tussauds, right? You can easily create. As you know, people who are joining from Australia, there are few old rocks or stones on the beach. We call them as tour apostles, get a lot of tourists, but provide tourism infrastructure. So we don't create in Sri Lanka a tourism product as such. So it's very important government pushes for new tourism product, innovative tourism products in order to get more tourist income. And also the other important thing government should involve is getting tourism investment, right? For that, because as you know, some of the things we can't do. So as I told you, if we can identify these are the lands available, these are the islands available. So these lands are available for tourism projects. So this is for 5-star property, this is for 4-star property. So we need theme park, this land. So government need to identify and name them depending on our requirement and take them to the world and say, hey, there's opportunity for you, right? Would you like to come? Right? If you can attract like a Disney, right, to Sri Lanka, they are sorted. And there are many tourism investment to country, whereas, that country depend on that 1 or 2, 3, 4 attractions, right? Investment. So, and also investing in islands, because if you think about Maldives, that resort itself is a tourism attraction. People just go there to stay there and look around. So again, getting a good luxury resort itself is a tourism attraction. So we have that potential in Sri Lanka. We have got a lot of unutilized islands in Sri Lanka. But whatever you do, it needs to be transparent and it should be efficient process. I know some investors in the past come to Sri Lanka, they go to BEIO, Board of Investment, and by the time he goes and apply and get the approval process, the other guy who came to Sri Lanka just going through the informal channels and this local council and local people do just dodgy things. He has built the hotel and finished the work, and this man is still in the pipeline because that process is so inefficient. And also the other big role of government is capacity planning. I have one of my guides, he's always joke with me, sir, didn't you go to Yala to see jeeps? So what he's telling me, when you go to Yala, you don't see animals, you see jeeps. So that much of jeeps in Yala. When I was working at NCA, I'm getting mails and mails complaining about hey, in your country, you guys are harassing animals, right? 50 boats are going behind one blue whale. So they are concerned about our natural life. They're concerned about our country's sustainability, right? So capacity planning is very, very important. And I know that you would have seen some videos how long the queues are at Sigiri, right? The crowd over there, right? So when it comes to capacity management, you can use technology. That's very important. You can use modern technology to talk about, the share, right? At the moment, this much of jeeps in Yahal already, this much of boat, no, then don't come there. It's crowded, right? All this through technology. So if you're on the way, you can update the tourist. No, so no point going there. So we have another option, right? Instead of taking him there and disappointing. The other problem is getting numbers and numbers and numbers. What happens is, whatever they say that there's a unutilized hotel room, they just, it's broken or just a small house, they just give lower quality products. Recently, when I went to Sri Lanka, I just hired a vehicle to take some of my relatives to a church and got into the vehicle. There's a decent air conditioning, but there's no space to even keep the leg. It's just seats are like next to each other. And at a casual conversation, the driver was telling me, so I'm doing tourism. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, are you taking tourists? I didn't tell him though, but is that the experience our tourists are getting? So what is going to happen at the end of the day once you go back? That's his transport experience in Sri Lanka. My gosh. So when you get over tourists, when you're not ready with your infrastructure, that's what you're going to end up with. And the other thing government should consider is establishing a disaster management fund. As you know, during COVID time or after Easter bombings, a lot of people, especially the low end, the big hotels and big tour operators, of course, again, they are doing a great job they have collaterals, so banks are, somewhat flexible, but they also have to struggle. But lower end people, they don't have any income, right? I know a lot of chauffeur drivers, they sold their vehicles, or the leasing companies came and took their vehicles. They start selling, I know a few guides start selling food along the roads, right? Urumas and what do you call manyoka. Some people went out of the business. Some people, they were really struggling, right? They worked hard to feed their families. So government must have to have a plan, disaster fund, whereas when the tourism is good, you collect some money, keep it as insurance. When the industry is this is a vulnerable industry, to help the industry people, which is very important. And adopting modern technology. So it is very important when you are in tourism to adopt modern technology. As you know, that virtual reality and augmented reality has become part of tourism, right? And also digital marketing is a must today, right? You have to go along that. And also technology for tourism operation, right? Ticket booking. You know that booking a train ticket in Sri Lanka is a big black market. So online ticket bookings, right, to different places, buying online, right, having mobile apps, connecting industry people, right? All these things are important. So we have to digitalize because the world is changing. So, and also, as you know, in a lot of, I know UK is using it, a lot of European countries using it, so Australia is using it. This tourism satellite accounting system that gives you a very clear reflection or clear idea about where your tourism income, a lot of statistical data is provided by tourism satellite accounting system, which Sri Lanka is not using it at the moment, but it's one of the things we should consider. And also the other thing missing in Sri Lankan tourism is crisis management plan. We don't have a plan for crisis. We have faced a lot of crises in the history. We had war, we had tsunami, we had bombings, Easter bombings in hotels, and many things. But we don't have a plan as a tourism destination. Okay, if something happens, this is how we are going to act. This is the person who's going to talk about it, right? So this is how we are going to communicate, right? We need to have training for disaster management. So how we are going to mitigate the impact of crisis. Right? So that collaborative effect we have to plan. So at the moment, Sri Lankan tourism part of plan, we don't have a crisis management plan. It's very important to have such a crisis management plan. And also, I think this is the final slide of government role. Government should undermine, we shouldn't forget when we do international tourism, the local tourists, because they have the right to enjoy their own country. But unfortunately, with this over tourism, some of the hotels ask higher charge for locals than the foreigners. Some hotels in L restaurants, they don't take locals into the restaurant, which is not a good thing. Local people need to enjoy their own country. And also, we shouldn't forget the importance of domestic tourism for overall tourism industry. They fill hotels during off-peak season. When they go out, of course, they buy food from the local grocery shops, the small vendors along the road. So they do an important part for the local economy. So we shouldn't forget domestic tourism when we talk about tourism in Sri Lanka. And this is sustainable use. I passed 1 hour now. I got only 15 minutes. I'll just go quickly from here. Sustainable use of resources. What I want to tell you here is, if we don't preserve your natural resources, if you don't preserve your water bodies, right, your environment, forget about Sri Lanka. Forget about Sri Lankan tourism. It has already happened in Bali. People don't hardly go there, especially so-called top-end tourists. Goa is finished, almost, right? Tourists hardly go there. The tourism arrivals have come down. This can happen to Sri Lanka. If we don't protect our environment, if we don't look at our nature, our water bodies, if we don't build this in sustainable way, gone. So it is very important to protect this and have a sustainable. Tourists will find another destination. They will tell, okay, I don't want to go to Sri Lanka. That's rubbish. We'll go somewhere else. But as Sri Lankans, where do they go? So it's important to protect this. And also, as a hotelier or tour operator, they also should go for a sustainable practice. Believe me, when I was working for the company, I got a mail from one of the UK operators saying, Damian, your company is fantastic, well done. You are giving 2 water bottles for our clients a day. Our clients stay in Sri Lanka for 10 days. So 2 into 10, it's 20. And we have 15 clients in each group, 300 plastic water bottles we are releasing end of the tour. So I really feel bad because they are talking about our environment, our sustainability, our protecting our environment. So suddenly I had a chat with my managing director. We suggest them, okay, we are going to fix a pump of 19 water bottle, which is reusable. So tell your clients to bring water bottles when they come for the tour. Fill water bottles for people who didn't bring. We took them to local supermarkets and they have to buy a bottle. So they fill the. Even this can be done in hotels, right? So food waste, right, and plastic collection. So you can move from those kind of plastic and other stuff to more environmental friendly stuff. So that helps sustainability. And people sustainability. It is very important. Again, whatever you do, think about community, empower them, community-based tourism. Just we shouldn't forget encouraging homestays. Farming, integrate our local farming into tourism, give cooking experience, integrate our fishing industry into tourism, right? For them to experience, take them into the beach and let them pull the nets with the local tourists, right? That's experience, right? But get the community involved in it, right? So then they also get some share of tourism. And also, always it's important to have a government, private sector, and local communities when it comes to planning. They should get together and plan, right? And also, skill development. For example, say areas like Sigiri, Damulla, Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, if you have skilled people, I mean, train them to work as chefs, to work as front office people, not always, gardeners and all, to work as general manager in their hotels. So the person who born and lived in Sigiri area is the general manager of that hotel. Right? What a fantastic thing. So we should develop their skill. That's part of sustainability, right? And also culturally, we should protect their culture while and traditions while we do the tourism business. That is very important. And also there is a role for local government with regard to sustainability. Government must have a plan for tourism approvals. For example, think we have 3-star hotels in an area, right? A lot of 3-star hotels. What we need a 5-star hotel, not in that area. So there is an approval coming for more 3-stars. So government should have to have, hey guys, there is enough 3-star hotels in that area. What we need is a 5-star hotel. So we give some incentives to start a 5-star hotel. So that's part of government involved, right? And say that when it comes to approval, there are local communities living, and there is a hotel come with 1,000 bedrooms or 800 room hotel. What is going to happen? Off-peak season, that 800 bedroom hotelier is going to dump prices. He's going to sell because he has excess capacity. He has 800 rooms. He's going to sell for 3-star property price because he has excess capacity. Then what is going to happen to the people who have 3-star and 2-star hotel? So that's part of sustainability. So that's where the government should involve. During SARS time, Singapore government, believe me, what they did was that kind of a large number of hotels. They said, hey guys, you can only sell 40% of your inventory. You can't sell more than that because other people also need to live. That's part of sustainability, right? So the other thing, as you would have seen, experience when you go to Sri Lanka, if you start going from Kandy to Nuwara, these beautiful tea gardens, everything is covered by these big hoardings, billboards. You can't see the natural beauty. All these are advertisement, big boards, right? Then again, where are we at sustainability? And only area I'm so worried about this Hatton Muskeli area, that side still preserved. I don't want this Kandy to Nuwara road, same thing happened to that area as well. And if you go to Nuwara, the other thing, Lake Gregory, if you have seen, they had pedal boats, fantastic, okay, no problem. Now they have jet skis. In that Nuwara surrounding, do you believe it's good to have jet skis in the Lake Gregory? Is it a good thing? That's where the local government should come. Not always money, what you get from them, but the nature, the sustainability. And also, government has a bigger role when it comes to approval, the architecture. If it is a building in Nuwara, they should preserve the Nuwara architecture, right? It depends. If it is gold, you should preserve the architecture in that area. So likewise, when you are approving, you should keep in mind the architecture, the nature, or the surrounding of that particular area. All those are part of sustainability. And I'll just quickly go to human resources. I've got 1 hour and 8 minutes already. This developing human resources have many benefits. As you know, if you've got trained staff, it's good. But believe me, my friends in Australia who have been to a lot of countries, they're still not happy with some of the services they get from front office, frontline staff in Sri Lankan hospitality. They always compare the service of Thailand, Malaysia. One of the general managers of a down south hotel went to Thailand, and after he came back, he said, Damian, I felt that these people working tirelessly, the smile they had in the morning at 8 o'clock, they have at the night time, so 10 o'clock in the night. So sometimes I think we are lacking in this area. We really need to develop human resource development, train them, tell them the importance of customer service, right? We have to make ready our workforce for this tourism business. Not to have a bad face when you see an Indian client, not to have a different face when you see a European. No, all are our clients. So we have to change our perceptions as well. And also, as you know, in Sri Lanka, when it comes to human resources, only 11% of a female participation. That's again back to the perception about the industry. We need change. We have to promote gender equality. We have to get more female workforce into tourism industry. 11% is unbelievable. And as you know, as few strategies, you know, there are NVQ, National Vocational Qualification, enhance them, get tourism education into it, right? And we need to have vocational training in schools, tourism, hospitality training into school as advanced subject if possible, right? Or as optional subject, right? And also specialized tourism institution, because we don't believe in specialization. For example, say, when I was doing tourism PhD, I had one of my colleagues just studying wine tourism. The other guy is studying a night a tourism with some torch, you know, that kind of a niche study area. So that can give an edge to the country, right? And scholarship and incentives for the people who do a different kind of areas of studies or research, right? And also having international partnership with leading tourism schools also important. And also, as you know, we have Sri Lanka Hotel School, but we need to relook at the program. We need to have a state-of-art modern hotel. We have a beautiful place. We have a hotel, but it's very primitive, neglected place. We can use that. But what are people studied in this organization today? Top general managers, sales directors all over the world. So we can produce more. We can use this education to earn more foreign currencies to the country. So we should go for it, right? And also importantly, I always tell this, because since I was in the industry and academia, academies do write research papers. They are end up in the library in their respective university. We have to have a collaboration. So I suggest every year we need to have a 2-day conference, 2-day discussion between educators, industry people, right, stakeholders, get together and advising the education institute, this is what we need. These are the areas you are lacking. These are the graduates we need. You all are producing a lot of management graduates, but we need chefs, right? Get the industry feedback, and we have to redesign our education system depending on the industry need and the world trends, not that, you know, just selling management. That doesn't take us anywhere. And also, there is mandatory training needed for our guides because they are the first contact point. Believe me, there are fantastic guides in Sri Lanka. Some guides do a tremendous job without thinking about the tip, without thinking about business on the way. They do a beautiful service. Sometimes when these tourists leave the country, they are crying, their kids crying. They don't want to leave them. They just have constant contact with them. So there are fantastic guides. I always appreciate them. But like any other industry, there are about 5% bad apples as well. They destroy the industry. From the morning, their objective is to either to do a shopping and earn money, right? Take them to a spice garden, take them to some other business place, gem shop, get money. If that doesn't happen, after candy, their faces get changed, right? And they sometimes leave the clients and go. There are situations. And some people, what happens is tourists come into the country to enjoy. Professional guides enjoy with them. They just share the joy with them. But some people, when they get friendly, start talking negatives, their personal problems, their family problems, right? And they are ruining that client's holiday as well. Because they think that everyone comes from foreign country are so-called rich people. No, they are bricklayers. They are, people who work hard and earn money and come to a country like Sri Lanka to enjoy. So we shouldn't ruin their holiday. So because of that, again, 95% we have good guides, but there are few people, and especially those people are not registered right? So we have to get them trained, and unregistered people, the law and order need to be implemented to stop them practicing because they are ruining the image of Sri Lanka. So, and also the side guides. Again, there's a story about side guides. Sometimes the back, when the different political parties came to power, they just, okay, when you are my supporter, you can be a side guide of Sigiriya, they are not professional people, right? They like sometimes act like thugs. They threaten tourists, right? They do different or various things to make tourists' life difficult, which shouldn't happen. So those things need to be curtailed. These things need to be stopped. Innovative product development, basically standardization. I'm talking here. We should always look at. We get a lot of tourists from India and Europe. No, world map is bigger than that. We have to look at Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, world fourth highest population, Indonesia, Philippines, South Africa. There are a lot of countries in the world. So we shouldn't concise ourselves to one or two markets, right? And also, again, tourism attractions. We shouldn't just look at Sigiriya, Damulla. We have to target different niche markets, right? And also, we should incentivize the tour operators who take tourists into less attractive tourism places like Dambadeniya or some other places. We should incentivize. And then if tourists start going to Dambadeniya, that's good for that area, the people living in that area. And also developing domestic airports. If you want luxury tourists, you need to have that, right? And also, we need to have a quality assurance standards in Sri Lanka, certification program for the hotels, for tourism attractions, to go and check and say, okay, you have followed safety protocols, okay, you are passed. That certificate they can display. Also, due to this constant check once a year or something, they try to maintain the quality of their tourism attraction. It can be a boat supply, it can be jeep supply, it can be a five-star hotel. And also, the other important thing is making this informal sector people as formalized. As I told you, 60%. My objective or my wish is to bring them down to 45% in 5 years' time. That's my wish. I hope that will happen. So, financially help them, get them into the mainstream, facilitate how to use booking platforms, right, and help them to get into the mainstream. Instead of informal tourism, register with tourism authorities, get their advice, follow their safety and other standards. And also, other suggestion I always thinking is having multifaceted big tourism hubs. Basically say that to start with one in Sigiriya, one in Polonnaruwa, would say a big place where next to the car park, you get a big area where you can buy tickets, where there is a coffee shop, there are local souvenir shop, tourist police is there, parking is there, huge place. Whereas, now when the tourists get down from, there is no place for them to have a coffee, no place for them to have beer, after under the sun, so many hours. So having that kind of a multifaceted area will definitely give them a tourist a big attraction, and especially the washroom facilities as well in there. And also the other thing is, for those kind of places, you can help locals. Okay, local cooperatives, you are going to manage this souvenir shop, you are going to manage this restaurant, empower them, right? To start with, we can start with 2, and if it is going well, we can go for 2, 3 places. And the other thing I want to tell here is, in main roads, say if we are going from Colombo to Sigiriya, from Kurunegala to Sigiriya, if you're going from here down south, there are no restroom facilities available, right? A lot of our guides are taking these tourists to Cargills, the toilets, etc., etc. And also believe me, the Selinco VIP, the Selinco people have their members. The photograph below is that a small toilet restroom area. So what I'm suggesting is, in the main highways, have 1 or 2 places where one tourism information, there's an information desk, toilet facility, and a small cafe. These 3 things. It doesn't take much of space. Just one staff would do, right? Again, give the ownership or responsibility to the local cooperative people. You maintain the place, you run the shop, you get the business, but same time give some information. But government need to give the infrastructure facility and advice and materials, etc., etc. And the other problem I want to quickly tell you here is I've taken one hour and 90 minutes already. I'll be so quick. The commission thing, believe me, this is killing Sri Lanka tourism, right? Spice gardens, gem shops, right? Craft shops, commission goes to the tour company, commission goes to the guide, right? Commission goes to the driver, commission goes to the bus helper. 4 times expensive than the real value. That is absurd. What you can do, but believe me, same time, there are tour company owners, they say, I like if everyone follows that, we don't want commission from this. And there are nice guys says, we don't want commission business, right? We are killing tourists. They know that. So what we can do is we can run educational programs. We can establish a certification program for places who do fair practices. We can request them, okay, you display your prices, right, to increase the transparency. So like that, if you do that, right, you can get more business. They don't know. What happens is if they go to Spice Garden, they buy some cinnamon, just paying $10. When they come to Fort, the 1 kilo they can buy for the 100 gram. They feel that they're insulted, they cheated. That's not a good feeling. Tourists should end up have a perception about our country. So those things need to be looked at. And also the other thing is tourism police. They need to be trained. They need to be empowered. They need to be alert. They should support tourists. They should be educated in different languages. All that need to be done because tourist police plays a big role. Last one, strategic destination marketing. I'll be super quick. I will finish this within next 5 minutes. Strategic destination marketing. We have to have strategic marketing looking at specific market segment. If you want high-end tourists, you target into that, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is when you are promoting Sri Lanka, you can promote Sri Lanka collaboratively. What happens is T-Board do one promotion, Sri Lankan Airlines do another promotion, GEM Board doing his other promotion, Export Development is doing another promotion. Different promotions, different messages, no coherent, no specific message. So you can get together and do one messaging. That's what you can do. And also when it comes to tourism promotion, the other big role we can play is we have got already this infrastructure in place, the role of diplomatic missions, embassies. So train the diplomatic staff about tourism product. If they don't know what to sell. So first we have to train them. Get them for familiar. They show them. If they haven't gone to Sigiriya, first take them to Sigiriya and show them. Otherwise, they can go and talk about it. Right? So they can do a huge role when it comes to tourism promotion of foreign missions. And Sri Lanka is blessed and located in a beautiful location. You can promote Sri Lanka as a tourism hub. Singapore has become a hub. Dubai has becoming a hub. We have a better potential. If you draw one line from UK to Australia, we are right in the middle. If you put a line from Japan to South Africa, we are right in the middle. If I stop in Singapore, I'm 7 hours, I'm in Singapore, and then I have to go for 13 hours to UK. But if you stop in Sri Lanka, 10 from Australia, Melbourne, 10 hours, 10 hours. We are right in them. We can promote our country as a tourism hub as well. Singapore is basically doing through transit tourists. And also the other thing is, due to location again, we have a huge potential about attracting international cruise clients. As you know, the cruises are used by the top-end tourists in the world. And the other promotional activity we can do is attracting one of the good global events. We can attract either a golf event or even like Grand Prix or tennis or musical event. We need events in Sri Lanka. As example, Melbourne is run with events, as you know, right? The other thing with regard to marketing is having a good calendar, tourism calendar, filled with activities. Every month we have something. Then tourists know, not only season, when we go June, July, even in May, April, we have some events. So creating a good full event calendar is also important part of our promotion. And also, believe me, there's a huge opportunity in Sri Lanka for MICE tourism and wedding tourism. Conferences, right? Weddings, exhibitions, because we are next to India, we have a lot of opportunity. And at the moment, we are getting some weddings from India, but we can do bigger. We don't have a proper conference center in Sri Lanka. I went to Malaysian Conference Center. The capacity itself is 16,000 guests, whereas here at BMICH 1,500, for everything we go to BMICH, right? And the other area of promoting is aging population. They have a lot of money, but we are not ready to grab that money. We don't have hotels with disabled facilities, disabled access. Toilets are not equipped with that, right? We don't use senior-friendly locations for hotel to build hotels, right? We don't have proper infrastructure. We don't use technology. If my mother is going to Sri Lanka, the child wants to know okay, my mother had her medication today. She got a SMS through the company she visited Sri Lanka. That's using technology. So that's another area we should look at. Golf, we have in Sri Lanka, the Colombo Golf Course is the fourth oldest golf course out of UK, right? We can do golf tourism again that can pitch our so-called top-end tourist clientele. Film tourism, huge potential in Sri Lanka. The 6% of the people visit New Zealand go to see Lord of the Rings shooting site. Because of the Lord of the Rings, they go to New Zealand, right? We did films here, Bridge on the River Kwai, we did recently Monkey Kingdom, but we are not really going to our potential. There's a huge potential in film tourism in Sri Lanka. Some countries really promoting. And diving tourism, around Sri Lanka, there are a lot of shipwrecks we have not used. There are a lot of shipwrecks around Sri Lanka. We can get high-end spending diving tours into tourists into Sri Lanka for this task. And also, we got a lot of architecture, right? We got twin ponds which are built about 1,500 years ago, 7-story building, Satmal Prasade, all that. So there are a lot of architects in the world, right? Heritage, people who study about history, right? People who want to come for educational tours. So we should look at those kind of niche areas. We should get those kind of clients into Sri Lanka, right? Again, Ayurveda, I don't have to tell, that is one of the areas we can look at. And also modern medical tourism. One of my colleagues did medical tourism. A lot of Europeans, Australians going for foreign countries for affordable treatment. So that's one of the areas. We can build a state-of-art hospital close to the airport and can start promoting that area as well. And as you know, Sri Lanka is a heaven for adventure tourism, wildlife safari, cycling, trekking, whitewater rafting, whale watching, surfing, huge potential. We have to, and also shopping, gambling, nightlife, again with the port city, we have opening and current. I mean, a lot of people in the world, they know butter chicken. We are still trying to promote one of our key food. We have fantastic food. I mean, everyone who I meet in Australia, some other part, they say, Sri Lankan food, we really like it. But they try to remember one food they try. But slowly kottu roti is becoming popular. But still, we are trying to position ourselves as with regard to food. So that's one of the areas, culinary tourism, right? Food trails, you start from Negombo, you get the flavor of Negombo food, and then go to Kandy area, that Kandy food, and then you go to Jaffna food, different food trails, tours. So that's another area we should look at. And also promoting experiential tourism, not to just come and see and go, just to experience the country, mingle with locals, right? Work with locals, right? So that's, and also the volunteerism is another area, whereas you can really mingle, get together with locals. This is my last slide. Thank you very much, everyone who listened, and your patience. I know it's a bit of boring talk. I will keep on talking 1.5 hours, but thank you for your patience.
I think it's great, really, to listen to you, Damian. It's been a 360-degree coverage on what we need to do. We got only a few minutes to question and answers, but we can entertain communications for our publication as well, which will be written towards the government to take certain action. So yes, Dharme first, Dharme. Dharme, hello.
Yeah, thank you, Jula. Thank you. I'll be very quick. I'm joining from London. Um, During my work in UK, I always talk to my colleagues when they go to Sri Lanka. I ask for feedback. The one thing they came is the poor toilet facilities. You mentioned, Damien. Thank you very much for the informative presentation. The second one is driving on the road frightens them. I have been in minibuses with a lot of tourists to go to Sri Lankan events. As soon as you go from airport to the hotel, you frighten them because they are holding with two hands because they don't like the driving on the road. So we need to improve that. And the other thing is various small vendors bothering the tourists, especially in beaches, to sell things. So these kind of things should be controlled. As you mentioned, Damien, Sri Lankans are never happy with the tips or commissions. That is another thing came up. Uh, One other thing I want to mention, in fact, when I went to Sri Lanka, a very senior person mentioned, I think you touched it, 60%. It is the quality of the tourists. Some of the backpackers are bring negative income to the country. They go and sleep in Banamadua in temples. They also have a part of the dane the priests get. And in fact, we are spending for them. So that is one other thing. My last point is uh, you touched that tourism comes at a cost. Yes, tourism is very sexy. So we have to be very careful about those. That is why Thailand is attracting 28% tourist income. Other good countries only attract 8 to 12%. You're very right, Damien. Thank you very much. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you very
Dharme.
much for your feedback. Yes, I mean, I have heard that driving. I have personally experienced. I got a group came to Sri Lanka. I went with them because they are VIP group. They were so scared about the driving. So that's where we need to have the education and tell them about. That's again a cultural. I mean, for us, it's a normal thing, right? I mean, but people who are coming from overseas, it's really bothering them. They are really fear with that kind of a traffic and driving situation. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Damien. Hemanta, it's you next. Hemanta. Hemanta. Hemanta from Sydney. You raised your hand. Hemanta?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can hear you now. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, my question was well done, Damien. Damien, it was a nice presentation. Um,
Thank you.
what was the purpose of that this presentation? In the sense you said you are doing a presentation to the government, or we are planning to do another kind of a write up to the government.
I'll probably answer that because we've been now going on for about 4.5 years. Basically, we are
Yes.
a kind of a non-political mission to educate the public. And now it seems that some government also following some of our work. So
Yeah.
we actually produce publications that with recommendations. So and also some of them go to the government officials and the political leaders as well. So we can make an impact. That's why we are doing this. Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. And can I also get involved in that? I can share some insight with you as well of
Yeah,
some things I
very
have done
good. So if
in
you
a
send
yeah,
your email, we normally communicate
yeah,
by email for this. So
yeah.
then say that you want to join this mission or this document and then take it from there. Please do so.
Okay, thanks. Yes.
Thank you. Gracian next. Yes, Gracian.
Thank you, Damian. Um, Let me take all of us back. I think this is a very important sector for the country, and there are so many issues involved. So we cannot be planning for tourism alone in this country. It has to be within an integrated plan. So if you look at the earliest form of tourism, it was GOH, Grand Oriental Hotel, and the Golf Face. Then in the 1970s, it came the Oberoi Hotel. 14 acres of the CWE was given to Oberoi, now the Cinnamon brand. That 14 acres is covered by apartment complexes and various other things, and Crescat and everything. So what are the benefits of tourism to the country from, let's say, 1977, when Bentota was developed by Jayajawardana's government? That was the concentrated development by any government. First development, Bentota. 1983 riots. Just before the riots, the tourism was booming. Then the entire sector was busted. For the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, the people were carrying the entire tourism sector. CBSL took over the loans from all the banks, and they started paying the interest to the banks and parked the loans. But there was a very fortunate thing that happened during that period of time. The tourism operators, they went out because the local market has collapsed. They developed Maldives, some of them. Some of them went to Middle East, and they operated the tourism facilities. And then, if you look at, then every time there was a downturn in the tourism, it was the locals who patronized the tourism industry. So the locals are very important. Then, to cut a long story short, in 2004, just before the tsunami, I was working for GIZ, working as a national value chain expert and looking at alternative tourism. Just before the tsunami, we had 3 workshops in Hambantota, Bandarawela, and Abaran. Then later on, I had the opportunity of doing the tourism value chains for Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines, 2008. If you look at this tourism sector, there are a lot of issues, that some of which Damian mentioned. Some are not mentioned even. If you look at the real tourism infrastructure, that are very, very close to the tourists. Say, why does a female tourist buys 2 tickets on the bus? There is no safety. And I was traveling on a train, and at Panadura, a tourist was he was in hysteria because his bag has been stolen, and the guy has gotten down from the district. Then I assisted the tourist to lodge a complaint at the tourist police. They don't have anybody who can speak their language or take proactive action. So different avenues of tourism, some of them Damian mentioned. The geriatric tourism is a very important one. People are getting older, so you have to have the facilities for them. Say, for instance, lawn bowling. People come and spend months during the winter. So we don't have a single lawn bowling venue in Sri Lanka. We are building, and we have decimated our jungles. We have a huge human-elephant conflict. Elephants don't have to be a burden or a conflict. They can be accommodated. By what percentage should we be increasing our forests, not deforestation? Maybe 3%, 4%. So what are the other tourism assets that we are not using right at the moment? There are 2 proposals right at the moment the government is considering, one by the Tourism Ministry, Vinta Herat, and the other one by the governor of Colombo, the Western Province, Yusuf Hanifa. That is to use the canals. So if you look at the canals, from Kalani Ganga, you can go upwards to Kitulgala area, and then through the Hamilton Canal, you can go up to Putlam. Why can't we extend that right across to Jaffna as an alternate? Why can't we have a small Venice somewhere along this thing? Because this is a country that is flat. 40 kilometers from the coastline, you go, and you are climbing only 4 meters. At certain points, it's almost flat. Flooding is a frequent event. Climate change is a big problem. So you bring the tourists to the doorstep of the people rather than taking the people to the hotels that they work. So bring the work to the workers rather than workers to the work. So these concepts will have to be incorporated. Now, we talked about the wellness tourism. Turkey, I have read that any flight that is coming from Istanbul, people have bandaged heads because they have got the hair transplant there. Dental, eye, these are not covered by the insurance schemes. So that is a high-end area. And the brain drain is another problem that we have. Now, in this tourism is embedded the national security. And if you look at, during the tsunami, soon after the tsunami, there was a big response to Sri Lanka because at that point in time, this has to be verified. I think I have heard and I have read somewhere during the tsunami time, it was at that point in time, Mr. Bill Clinton and Mr. George Bush, they were holidaying in Sri Lanka, it seems, right? So those people were here, and then the contingency was there, so they acted very fast. So what is the main problem here in Sri Lanka? Now, if you look at all these things, now say for instance, Damien mentioned about the places of the Russian, Ukrainian, Israelis, and Chinese. But Sri Lankan diaspora, that has to be included there. They have a lot of apartments in Colombo and elsewhere. They hide from abroad. They get the money into their foreign accounts, and only the electricity bill and the upkeep for the linen and everything comes here. Nothing comes here. So these are being transacted abroad and being operated from abroad, and all the revenue goes there. So it is a net revenue loss, foreign exchange loss to the country, because these tourists are to be managed by about, I think, 70-80% dollar bill. Every dollar that you get, 80 cents goes back for their food and various things. So this is the scenario that we are having. We are not even looking at the total picture. The picture is very bleak, bad. And they live, they are excrete, and they are dirty soil, the soil clothes and linen and various other things. Is that what we want as a benefit? Right? So I'm being a little too critical here. Not that, Damian. Sorry, it's not that. Right? We have to look at much deeper, much integrated way. And we have to think really big. Right? So
correct. What you mentioned was, I'm with you. But you and me talking are not. We are not far from each other.
We are talking the same
you
thing.
Are actually, you are,
right?
you are just widening the spectrum. I was talking and
exactly.
giving some more insights. Whereas, I was even this was part of this canal thing is a fantastic idea. I've been talking about it, and also, we could use that as even forget about tourists for local. Before this highway was built, this canal, because I was living in Negombo. It took 2 hours for me to come from Negombo to Colombo. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this canal goes to, from Berevavar to, up to Puntland. There are many things, as you very correctly mentioned. Thank you very much for your valuable feedback.
I'll finish. Let me finish. Right.
Gratian, time is an issue already.
Yeah.
Quite
so
late.
I'll finish. Just give me 30 seconds. In 1947, P.B. Alice Perra wrote Mage Rata Kavipanti. In that, he comes to a very important, pertinent point. Unusuma Sisila Saha Atare Samagunaya, Atian Ratak Nata Mage Rata Etitane. Gumi Gona Atsena Yutuanaya, Pawasanaya, Mata Eti Jatikadane. The concept of national wealth, national capital, is defined here. How to protect that when we are doing tourism. That is the challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gratian.
Thank you, Gratian. There are 3 more people waiting. Amara next. So we got only about 5 minutes more. So let's see. Amara, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Damian. Thank you for the very beautiful speech. I think you have collected all the information regarding the tourism industry and what is lacking there. And I would like to add a little more. So when it comes to tourism in Sri Lanka, we really want to consider the distribution of public sector revenue from tourism, which is also an important part of it. So what the government gets from tourism, even though there are like hotels and private sector revenue, but what is important to the government is the public sector revenue. So out of that, the highest revenue is from embarkation tax, about 28%, but the second revenue to government is wildlife parks. So embarkation tax, what we can, like when you think about the high number of tourists coming, which is not really a good thing because of a high influx of people into the country, and then how do you really get most out of the tourists is by increasing the embarkation tax. The second is the wildlife parks, because 25% or second of the government revenue is from wildlife park. But when, like someone said, when you go to Yala, you can see a very high crowd in Yala and you can't even move. Sometimes the line is over 2 kilometers and you can't even get in. And then when it comes to the revenue from wildlife parks in Sri Lanka, highest is from Yala, and second is from all the others, like 30%, and third is from Udawalawe. But others have not been developed. So when we are facing a lot of human-elephant conflict, and we have a lot of potential to develop other areas for tourism. That is another thing. And I had some discussions from some of our people, and they say, because we feel too many tourists coming into the city will create a mess in Sri Lanka. So how can we like reduce this number? Is by, I feel like, at the same time, while increasing the government revenue, is by increasing the embarkation tax, because we have one of the lowest embarkation taxes in the world, and it won't reduce, I mean, like the good tourists coming. But for example, USA has the highest tax visa fee for tourism, but it has the highest world ranking in tourism. And also UK has the second highest visa fee, and it has the like third, fourth, like a very high world ranking in tourism. So it won't really reduce, but it will reduce the tourists who spend less in the country. So I feel those are the policy recommendations what we will have to give in at least at the bottom of your speech or in your recommendation what you are going to produce to the government in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Amar. I'll be quick. I mean, with regard to increasing embarkation tax, there was a discussion about it. But what happens is, for example, say if it is $25, I mean, the other thing we shouldn't forget about is, other thing we shouldn't forget about in this context is, we are not alone operating as a country. We have competitive countries like Thailand, right? Malaysia, right? So we are in a competitive environment. So, for example, say if you can remember when this visa fees came into play, Thailand suddenly, abolished the visa fees. Then most of our, so we are in a competitive environment too. And if it is 25% increase, if it's a family of 5, say that family tourists, right? It's $125. So there is a bit of a cost impact as well. So, I mean, I'm not telling increasing it or decreasing it good or bad, but it's something to consider. But there are some implications of that as well. And also with regard to your Yala story, yes, I know the story in Yala. And if we can get, that's the idea I just told you, dispersing tourists into different areas. If we could get half of that to Vilpattua, the problem is, somewhat, so we have to get tourists spread out instead of concentrating in one area. So sorry for my quick answer. For the next person, please. Sorry, Dr. Chula.
So we got 2 more questions from Nilmini next, please.
Thank you very much, Damien. It's a really fascinating talk and very comprehensive. I particularly liked your comments about sustainability and also about female participation in the sector. Um, could Sri Lanka do with a real rebranding overseas? Because there are some perceptions about Sri Lanka that we need to dispel. And if a lot of effort can be gone into the rebranding of Sri Lanka and marketing, that would be fantastic. But in particular, my question was really about the digital nomad visa. Some people think it's to bring in hippies, but that's not what a digital nomad visa is. But if that can be encouraged, you might have a lot of foreign revenue coming in from quite affluent people who are very well established, but who can use the remote working arrangements. That's something that I wanted to ask whether that's a possibility to expand that.
Yeah, quickly I'll answer that. Sorry, have you done Nimani? Oh,
Nilmini.
Nilmini, sorry. Nilmini, but a couple of things you mentioned about global marketing. I mean, Sri Lanka tourism is getting ready for global marketing campaign. They are going to rebrand because, as you know, that due to politicians, or I would say political, our tagline changed about 5 times already, right? Whereas if you think about Malaysia or India or some other country, taglines are very like fun, concise. But so it has been changing. So they're getting ready for global marketing campaign. So with that, I think rebranding will happen. With regard to your second thing, digital nomad visa, even I'm for that because a lot of people, the world is changing, world is becoming smaller, working from home scenario is becoming very popular. And I think for that, Sri Lanka is a good destination. And also that doesn't affect our overcrowding situation as such into the tourism sites. It's just, easy revenue for a hotel room and to the country. So it's a valid point. Thank you very much for that idea.
Thank you, Damien. Can I invite now Mervyn last? I actually to have to acknowledge Mervyn because he's the one who suggested that I could contact you for this presentation. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Damien. Well, thank you for accepting our invitation and doing the presentation. It was fabulous, very comprehensive. You took us on a journey which covered pretty much all aspects of tourism that I have ever thought about, plus 40% more. So that was very, very rich. Thank you. Now, if I had the time, I would have gone to about 8 or 10 questions, which I'm conscious we haven't got the time. A couple of things I just want to tease out from you because you are closer to action. One is the present government had a manifesto, in their manifesto, tourism promotion. There's a strategy there. You may or may not want to share with us how much input you had into that manifesto. That's one thing. And second one is having so much insight and knowledge. I believe the people in the planning have access to that. And how is it influencing our future direction? Will that some of that will be used to do a more intelligent strategic management of tourism? Because we cannot or we must not compete with huge countries like India. They haven't got the landmass to do that. So we have to go for approaches like Singapore, who are doing it in a smart way, highly populated countries with a small landmass, doing things that are more effective for us. So a little bit on that. And the other one is the role of the national carrier. Both Dubai and Singapore have got very successful airlines that are making a massive contribution to their tourism. And Sri Lanka perhaps had the opportunity, but we are not there now. And what's the thinking there? So a little bit on those two topics, if you can just update us on.
Sure, I'll just be quick. Thank you very much for introducing myself to Dr. Chula, Mr. Marine. So I'll just quickly go through. I mean, with regard to my contribution to the current government tourism policy, since I'm passionate about tourism, I met the current government tourism policy making people in Colombo a couple of times. I shared a 36-page document with them. Because I was actually really interested to hear from them. They were talking about sustainable tourism because I have been to many tourism forums. These three people who are mainly, I would say, architect of NPP government tourism policy, they were talking about sustainable tourism. So I thought, okay, this is the place I should be. So I also shared my views as well. And they are in the view that we shouldn't go for numbers, we should go for quality tourism. So I have a feeling that they are going towards that direction. And also, I mean, I think with the same thing, you answered the second question. The good thing of this government, what I have seen, I'm not going to praise the current government, but I'm telling the truth. They are positioning correct people in the correct places. So that's one thing I can see. They are not looking for their friends, their fellows, giving that approval to the people who are close to them, which is not happening, which I have not experienced for the last 6 months. So I have very positive hope about this current government will fix most of the problems what we experienced in the past. With regard to your third question, with regard to our national carrier, is my personal belief is this is different to the government view actually. My personal belief is Sri Lankan Airlines can't go as a government-owned entity. The simple reason being, I will take 2 minutes, and sorry, Chola, this is because that's the place I worked. I have done some research around this area. We are huge in debt. Already we have accumulated a loss of 175 billion rupees, right? With least 22 old aircraft consume a lot of fuel, right? And if you analyze, most of our destinations are running at a loss, right? It is not this government fault. It has been the situation with all the previous government appointing your friends, etc., etc. So that is one side, but the other side is anyway in the world at the moment, airline business is not that profitable business except for a couple of 3-4 airlines. Most of the airlines are struggling with the budget carriers, etc., other things. And my other view of the Sri Lankan airline situation is there is a thing called fixed cost when you are running an airline. Either you have a 20 aircraft or 250 aircraft. You have to have an office in a certain country. You have to have a country manager. You have to have a station manager. You have to have you have costs. So we are bearing that cost with 20 aircrafts, right? Whereas we are competing with the airlines who have 200 aircraft, 220 aircraft. So in this phenomena, what my personal belief is, we should find a good, not to close the airline, of course, but we have to find a partner, whereas work together for mutual benefit, whereas as a country, we have an airline, but with a correct partner, which stop, bleeding money from people's, taxpayers' money bleeding, to stop that, not to happen that in future. So that's my personal view.
That when you use the word code sharing agreements, airlines tend to do.
Code sharing agreements we already have. Sri Lankan Airlines have many code sharing agreements, but it's a merger with another airline like what we used to do with Emirates some time ago.
Okay. I'll say.
That time company was making profits because we are putting synergies together. There are different views about it, but still I believe that we need to find a partner, correct partner, or go for a, not to sell, but to work with the government, a 51-49 kind of partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've had a great meeting today. Thank you very much, Damian, for promoting this, as well as keeping the interest until the end, which is just over 2 hours now. And it's very late for you as well in Australia. So keep your involvement, and perhaps let's get through some kind of a publication with recommendations so that many people will get involved, not just the government, but maybe the local governments, etc., etc. So let's make it useful, and I will send a link for the public video very shortly. Great. Have a good night, and maybe we'll communicate again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your participation and listening to me.
Good night.